So, this happened a few months back. I took a night security gig at this old abandoned high-rise downtown. The pay was decent, and all I had to do was sit in the lobby and make sure no one broke in. Seemed easy enough. The building's been empty for years, a concrete skeleton just waiting to be demolished. 15 floors of nothing, or so I thought. My first night I remember just staring up at it from the street. It looked like a tombstone against the sky. Thick fog was rolling in, swallowing the base of the building, and the only light on was a single, flickering street lamp that made the shadows dance. All the windows were dark, shattered voids, except for one. Way up, somewhere in the middle, a faint light was on. I didn't think much of it at the time. Probably squatters, I figured. That was my job after all, to check it out. The lobby was thick with dust. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, landing on an old marble floor covered in a layer of grime that probably went back decades. There was a reception desk, a relic from another time, with an old, leather-bound logbook sitting open. I ran my fingers over it. The last entry was dated almost 30 years ago. Just a name, a time, and the words "final walkthrough complete." A shiver ran down my spine, but I shook it off. It was just an old, creepy building. I did a quick sweep of the ground floor. Nothing. Everything was boarded up tight. The only way up was the elevator. I walked over and pushed the call button. Nothing happened. The panel was dead. I was about to turn away, maybe check the stairwell, when I noticed it. Next to the button for the 12th floor, there was a tiny, almost invisible seam in the metal. I pushed on it, and a section of the panel popped open, revealing a hidden button. It wasn't numbered. It was just a plain, unmarked circle, and as I looked at it, it started to glow with a faint, pulsing red light. I know. I should have just walked out, but I didn't. I pushed it. The elevator shuddered to life with a groan of protesting metal. The doors jerked open, but the inside wasn't the dusty metal box I expected. The air that hit me was warm and humid, carrying a smell like mildew and old perfume. I stepped inside, and the scene was ruined. The floor was covered in a disgusting soaked brown carpet that squelched under my boots. The walls were lined with peeling floral wallpaper, the kind you'd see in a 70s horror movie. This wasn't the elevator. It felt like I'd stepped into a different building, a different decade entirely. The doors slammed shut behind me, and there was a gut-wrenching lurch. There were no buttons inside. I was just along for the ride. When the doors opened again, I was in a long hallway, the same wet carpet, the same ugly wallpaper. A single bare bulb flickered overhead, casting long, distorted shadows. Every door was identical, except for one at the very end. 1304. There was torn police tape hanging from the frame, faded and yellowed with age. The door itself was covered in deep scratches, like an animal had tried to claw its way in, or out. A warm, orange light was spilling from underneath it, pulsing softly, like a heartbeat. The air grew heavier the closer I got. It felt like walking through water. My own heart was pounding in my chest. I could hear a faint, high-pitched ringing in my ears. I reached out, my hand shaking, and pushed the door open. The apartment was a time capsule. All the furniture was covered in yellowed plastic sheets, preserving it perfectly. There was an old rotary phone on a small table, its cord chewed through. On the fridge, held up by a magnet, was a child's crayon drawing. It showed a stick-figure family under a black sun. Scrawled underneath in messy red crayon were the words, "We never left." The red looked like it was bleeding, dripping down the paper. That's when I heard it. A whisper, right next to my ear. It said my name, a child's voice. It knew my name. Suddenly, every light in the apartment went out. The orange glow under the door, the flickering bulb in the hall, everything pitch black. My flashlight was dead. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the camera, hoping the screen would give me some light, but the image it showed wasn't right. It was like thermal vision. Everything was a cold, deep blue, except for the handprints. Dozens of small, childlike handprints appearing on a glass cabinet sliding across the surface. They were cold, so cold. And then, behind me, in the phone's screen, a new shape began to resolve. A tall, adult heat signature, rising up from the floor, towering over my own silhouette. I didn't dare turn around. I scrambled back out into the hallway and slammed the door. My breath was coming in ragged gasps. I saw a cracked mirror on the opposite wall. In the reflection, my own face was staring back at me, but it was smiling. A wide, unnatural grin, while my real face was a mask of terror. As I watched, frozen, my reflection raised a hand and wrote something in the condensation on the mirror. Backwards, so I could read it. "Stay." I turned and ran. I wasn't going near that elevator again. I found the emergency exit and threw the door open, plunging down the concrete stairs. But something was wrong. I ran down flight after flight, but I kept ending up on the same landing. The walls were painted with dripping red letters. Over and over, 1304. The emergency lights cast everything in a hellish red glow. The air was thick with the smell of rust and something else. Something sweet and rotten. The stairwell was looping. I was trapped. I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath, and the whole world glitched. The image stuttered, tearing, the red light flaring like a strobe. I don't know how long I was in there, it felt like hours. I finally collapsed on a landing, exhausted. I looked down at the filthy concrete floor and saw them wet, bare footprints. They weren't mine, they were small, too small for an adult, and they were walking away from me, down the stairs. But as I watched, they stopped, and then they started coming back, reversing their direction, one squelching print at a time, walking straight towards where I was sitting. I could hear the wet slap of bare feet on concrete getting closer and closer. I screamed and scrambled backward, and suddenly, my phone screen, which had been dead, lit up. The time read 3:33 a.m. Then it glitched, flickering rapidly, and the numbers changed. 5:57 a.m. And just like that, I was back. I was sitting on the floor of the lobby, the same dusty marble floor I saw when I first walked in. I was soaked in sweat, my clothes clinging to me. I looked at the CCTV monitors on the security desk. They were on 4 screens, showing different angles of the building. The lobby, the main entrance, a hallway. All of them were empty. The timestamp on the footage showed the entire night passing by, from the moment I walked in until now. In the videos, I never left the desk. I just sat there, in the dark, for hours. I grabbed my stuff and I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't clock out. I just got in my car and drove. The sun was coming up. I never went back. But sometimes, when it's late, and I'm alone, I can still hear it. That whisper. And sometimes, my phone rings. It's always a blocked number. And when I answer, all I hear is static. But underneath the static, if I listen really closely, I can hear the faint sound of an elevator bell ding.